by the petitioner that the legislative chamber must be sued in order for adverse orders to be sought against it. The respondent asserts that the orders sought by the petitioner, including the nullification of the impeachment, are untenable because the process followed the law strictly, and the petitioner is in essence raising minor procedural lapses that do not go to the root of the matter and the substantive finding by the Senate. Adding that the petitioner cannot benefit from claims of procedural violations that she neither contested to or failed to challenge at the appropriate time, the respondent contends that the petitioner is clutching at straws in a feeble attempt at escaping the logical outcome of a just and fair constitutional process that found her liable for gross violations of both the Constitution and statute law. Finally, the respondent contended that the impeachment was not politically motivated or discriminatory, nor was it a preconceived decision. They argue it followed established legal frameworks and cited Bhavana Patel Mandalaya versus Chetan Arun Solanki 2021, where the court emphasized that evidentiary requirements must be met for claims of bias to succeed. The respondent concludes by urging this court to dismiss the amended petition in its entirety, arguing that the impeachment process was lawful, that the petitioner was accorded due process, and that the claims made in the amended petition are without merit. The respondent urges the court not to act in substantive merit review of whether the Senate ought to have affirmed or dismissed the charges against the petitioner, but rather only limit itself to whether the law was followed in the process, which the respondent emphatically affirms was the case. The Senate acted within its constitutional and legal mandate. The petitioner was granted a fair hearing, and the impeachment process met the required legal standards. Therefore, the order sought by the petitioner should not be granted. The first, second, and seventh interested parties' position supporting the amended petition. The seventh interested party's reply and written submissions were struck out by the court due to improper commissioning of the replying affidavit, which meant there was no underlying foundation for the interested parties' written submissions. However, it fully supported those of the petitioner and the first and second interested parties in support. The first, second, and seventh interested parties fully associated themselves with the petitioner's case and supported the amended petition wholeheartedly. In terms of fresh ground covered, the first interested party, the Council of Governors, argues that the court should uphold the sanctity of impeachment and not affirm a process that was marred by irregularities. The Council of Governors' position was that the present case is indicative of a worrying trend in which impeachment has become watered down and the bar for it has become too low. Additionally, the first interested party faulted the Senate for conducting the voting on a day that was not gazetted as an official sitting date, which renders the entire process unlawful in its eyes. To the Council's mind, the manner in which the impeachment was conducted raises fundamental questions about whether due process was followed, and if not rectified, it sets a dangerous precedent for future impeachments. The first interested party asserts that adherence to constitutional and statutory provisions is paramount in such weighty matters that directly affect the sovereign right of Kenyans to elect and be served by a governor of their choice. The second interested party, FIDA Kenya, highlights that the petitioner's fundamental constitutional rights were violated throughout the impeachment process, and this was part of a larger challenge faced by women in political leadership positions. The second interested party echoed the averments by the petitioner in her supporting affidavit that she was subjected to gender discrimination contrary to Article 27 of the Constitution, and the petitioner's right to equal treatment and equal protection of the law were manifestly violated by the Senate in its proceedings. Article 50 of the Constitution guarantees every person the right to a fair hearing, yet the petitioner was denied this right when she was not allowed to present closing arguments before the Senate. This deprivation goes against established legal practices and fairness standards, and this was submitted by the second interested parties. On the key constitutional requirements for impeachment, which is public participation, the second interested party notes that the process did not meet the constitutional standards required under the law. The second interested party also raises serious concerns about gender discrimination in the impeachment process. The petitioner, being a female governor in a society which both the petitioner and the second interested party stated has strong patriarchal structures, has been subjected to relentless political persecution. They observed that the impeachment marks the fifth attempt to remove the petitioner from office, suggesting a pattern of targeted victimization rather than a genuine accountability process. FIDA Kenya argues that women in leadership positions, particularly in highly patriarchal societies like Meru, face undue scrutiny and hostility. The petitioner's case is reminiscent of historical gender-based political exclusion, where women are not given opportunities to lead. The impeachment proceedings in the Senate, to their mind, were conducted in a manner that reinforces societal biases against female leadership, discouraging other women from pursuing political careers. The second interested party also highlights that the petition has been subjected to multiple impeachment attempts based on the same set of allegations. The second interested party in particular proposes several legal remedies, including the nullification of the impeachment, an order reinstating the petitioner, and an injunction preventing further impeachment attempts on the same grounds. They also recommend legal reforms to protect governors from politically motivated impeachments. The Senate's role in impeachment should also be clearly defined, and adherence to due process enshrined. They urge this court to be alive to the reality behind the impeachment of the petitioner in the Senate and establish through this judgment a precedent that strengthens constitutional safeguards against abuse of the process of impeachment